But we start in Mesquite, where police are looking for answers this afternoon after a woman was found dead in her home this weekend. Brittany Moncrief has been speaking with neighbors and family members to give us a better idea of what happened here.
That's right, Chris. Well, neighbors directed us to this home right behind me on Avis Circle in Mesquite. And this is where they say police spent hours Sunday after family members grew concerned about the well-being of 42-year-old Keisha Hilliard. Now, Mesquite police say that around Sunday afternoon, a little bit after 4:15, they conducted a welfare check at this home. Family was gathered outside, and police say when they entered the home, they found a deceased woman who'd suffered a gunshot wound. Family members tell us that woman was their loved one, Keisha Hilliard.
On October 12, 2025, officers responded to a welfare check call at a home on Avis Circle in Mesquite, Texas, where they discovered 35-year-old Keisha Hilliard dead from an apparent gunshot wound. Her longtime partner, Marcus Daniels, was missing, leaving behind their two youngest children inside the residence. One of them, a toddler, reportedly uttered the first critical statement to investigators. "My daddy shot my mom." The scene was secured as detectives from the Mesquite Police Department began collecting evidence and reviewing nearby surveillance footage. Hours later, Marcus's black sedan was found abandoned near a service road off Interstate 635, deepening the mystery surrounding his disappearance.
Now, according to Keisha's family, the initial welfare check request came from her long-term partner's family. They tell us that his family was worried after he dropped off their 7-month-old baby and his 3-year-old off unexpectedly with no supplies. Now, police have identified Keisha's partner as Christopher Witt, and they say that he is a suspect in this investigation. They've issued a bolo asking anyone with information for his whereabouts to contact U.S. Marshals. Now, Keisha's family believes the two children were in the house when she was shot. Both are now safe. Now, we spoke with Keisha's brother, Malcolm, who says he just wants justice for his big sister.
As far as I can go back, Keisha's always looked out for me with all the things I've been through in my life. Even just when I was a little kid, I still remember when she wanted to give me my first phone, helped me go get my ears pierced. She used to buy me video games. She used to teach me a lot of stuff. So she's so family oriented.
5 children were suddenly without their mother, and the Hilliard family demanded answers. What began as a routine welfare call evolved into a full-scale homicide investigation, one that would expose the unseen dangers of domestic conflict and test how far justice could reach. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's begin. Keisha Hilliard was a 42-year-old woman and lifelong resident of the Dallas area. She was known as a devoted mother, a creative business owner, and an active community member. She had 5 children whose ages ranged from 6 months to 24 years. Friends, relatives, and neighbors describe her as a person who valued family structure, spirituality, and discipline. She prioritized raising her children and maintaining a consistent household environment. Her background reflected stability and self-sufficiency. Keisha owned a small business where she worked as a designer, managing creative projects while also maintaining her home life. She had written a book that documented her ideas and experiences, showing an interest in combining entrepreneurship with personal growth. In addition to her business activities, she grew her own food, showing her interest in healthy living and sustainability. Those who interacted with her said she was always involved with her children's education and activities. She maintained a consistent routine and had strong ties to her community in Mesquite, Texas. She was recognized as approachable and respectful, with a reputation for reliability and dependability. She often gave advice to other mothers and was seen as an example of balance between work and family responsibilities. In the final days leading up to her death, Keisha's communication pattern changed. Family members noticed she had started missing regular calls and check-ins, which was not consistent with her usual behavior. Relatives attempted to reach her several times but received no response. After several days without contact, concern began to grow. Family members then reached out to the Mesquite Police Department and requested a welfare check at her residence. No available records indicated that Keisha had expressed any fear for her safety or that she expected danger. Public reports showed no history of domestic violence threats or restraining orders. At the time, there was no indication that her life was at risk or that she had ongoing disputes that could lead to harm. The primary person connected to the case was 42-year-old Christopher Witt. He was Keisha's partner and the father of her youngest children. Both lived together in the same residence in Mesquite. The two had been in a long-term relationship and shared parental responsibilities within the household. To the public, their relationship appeared stable, with no documented record of violence or police involvement at the home prior to the incident. Relatives later reported that there were tensions between Keisha and Witt related to domestic matters. These included arguments over the treatment of the children and household responsibilities. Although no formal complaints had been made, it was later suggested that disagreements had become more frequent. Family members mentioned that Keisha had expressed concern about certain behavioral issues, but nothing suggested she anticipated violence. Reports indicated that on the night before the shooting, there may have been an argument inside the home. Neighbors later told police they believed they heard raised voices, though this information was not officially confirmed by law enforcement in public records. No calls to police were made that night. By the following morning, a sequence of actions placed Christopher Witt at the center of the investigation. He took his two youngest children from home and drove them to his father's residence. Upon arrival, he made a statement to his father saying, "I think I killed Keisha." His father immediately contacted authorities and reported what he had been told. Law enforcement was notified, and officers were sent both to Witt's father's home and to Keisha's residence to verify the situation. At the same time, investigators began interviewing family members and witnesses to establish a timeline. The children who had been taken to Witt's father's home were physically unharmed. During initial questioning, one of the children, a 3-year-old, made a statement to investigators saying, "My daddy shot Keisha." This statement was recorded and entered as part of the early evidence in the case. It became a critical component in confirming the circumstances of what had occurred inside the house. Investigators also reviewed the family's background and found no documentation of past criminal charges involving Witt. He had no known history of violence or prior arrests related to domestic incidents. However, within the private environment of their home, unresolved conflict appeared to have escalated into a fatal event. When Mesquite police responded to Keisha Hilliard's home following the welfare check request and the information provided by Witt's father, they located the scene of the homicide. The residence was a 1-story home located in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Upon entry, officers discovered Keisha deceased in the bedroom area. She had sustained a single gunshot wound to the head. Initial scene assessment found no evidence of forced entry. Doors and windows were intact, and nothing appeared to have been disturbed. The absence of forced entry led investigators to determine that the victim had likely known the assailant and had allowed them access voluntarily. There were no visible signs of physical struggle beyond the immediate area of the shooting. Officers secured the perimeter and began evidence collection. The suspected weapon was a handgun, though police did not recover the firearm at the scene. Investigators performed gunshot residue, GSR, tests on surfaces and collected trace evidence samples for laboratory analysis. Ballistics experts examined the trajectory and entry wound to determine firing distance and angle. Forensic investigators photographed the room, the victim's position, and surrounding details for documentation. Electronic devices were seized from the residence, including cell phones and a laptop, to analyze recent communications. Digital evidence such as text messages, call logs, and social media records were expected to provide context on the hours preceding the incident. Surveillance footage from surrounding residences and nearby streets was also reviewed to identify vehicle movement patterns and confirm Witt's timeline of departure. The 2 children who had been in the house during the event were found unharmed. They were placed in the temporary custody of relatives after medical evaluation. Statements were taken from nearby residents who reported seeing Witt leave the property that morning with both children. The Dallas County Medical Examiner's Office conducted an autopsy confirming the cause of death as a gunshot wound to the head. The death was officially ruled a homicide. Toxicology tests were ordered as part of the routine process, though results were not publicly disclosed. The single gunshot wound in the absence of additional injuries indicated that the act was deliberate and singular in nature rather than a struggle or prolonged altercation.
Texas at 4 o'clock. I'm Ken Molestina.
I'm Nicole Baker. Karen's off this afternoon. We're going to start with new information that we got just in the last 30 minutes about a deadly shooting in Mesquite. Police have named a suspect. It's 42-year-old Christopher Witt. He is now wanted for the death of Keisha Hilliard, who was found inside her home. That was on Avis Circle over the weekend. Brazeda Holguin sitting down with the family this afternoon.
Police say this was initially reported as a welfare check, but turned out to be a homicide investigation. Keisha's family says the last few days have been extremely difficult, especially for Keisha's 5 children who she leaves behind.
I really don't know what's going to happen or how we're going to make it through, because it's going to be tough. And it's going to be tough for her kids.
Keisha Hilliard was a mother of 5, her youngest just 6 months old. On Sunday, police found her dead inside her home.
What possessed you to think that you have the right to take a life? Regardless of the situation, you walk away.
Her family now left with so many unanswered questions. Keisha's family says Sunday afternoon they got a call indicating she was in danger.
She always answered her phone, and she wasn't answering her phone.
So that was the first red flag you guys saw.
That's a big red flag.
Mesquite police found the 42-year-old with a gunshot wound.
Well, Keisha is the fun person. She's outgoing. She loves kids. She great mom. Excellent mom. She makes sure that they're taken care of.
Right now, the family is coming together to support one another, especially Keisha's kids, and worry about how difficult this upcoming holiday season will be for them.
Because it doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem real at all. Even just the kids to wrap their heads around it, and being young, it's going to be devastating in their lives. So they're going to need comfort.
In Mesquite, Brazeda Holguin, CBS News, Texas.
Following confirmation from both the scene and the autopsy, the Mesquite Police Department issued a public notice identifying Christopher Witt as the primary suspect. The department released a statement to the media describing him as armed and dangerous and urged the public to report any sightings immediately. The alert included his photograph and vehicle description. Detectives prepared arrest warrants based on the physical evidence, witness statements, and Witt's own admission to his father. The investigation remained active as police continued to search for the weapon and analyze collected forensic samples. At this stage, authorities confirmed that the event was domestic in nature and that no other individuals were suspected of involvement. The motive was classified as domestic dispute escalation, pending additional evidence review. The children remained under protective supervision as the investigation continued. All physical and testimonial evidence pointed toward Witt's involvement, supported by his verbal admission and the child's eyewitness account. Following the discovery of Keisha Hilliard's body, law enforcement immediately began reconstructing the final hours leading up to her death. According to police records, the primary suspect, identified as Witt, fled the scene soon after the fatal incident. His vehicle was later located abandoned near the Dallas area, a crucial piece of evidence that triggered a multi-jurisdictional search effort. Police departments across North Texas circulated wanted posters and surveillance stills pulled from nearby cameras. Local news stations and digital media platforms rapidly distributed Witt's image, urging the public to remain alert and to report any sightings. The Mesquite Police Department led the communication efforts, releasing a statement calling for information and providing tip lines for anonymous leads. The disappearance set off a tense, 2-week manhunt that spanned several Texas counties. During this period, tips began to surface from citizens who believed they had spotted the suspect at convenience stores, gas stations, and motel areas scattered around Dallas County. In the immediate aftermath, Keisha Hilliard's family publicly pleaded for Witt's surrender, emphasizing their desire for justice rather than revenge. They described Keisha as a dedicated mother who worked tirelessly to provide for her children. Her relatives created a campaign titled Justice for Keisha, which quickly gained traction across social media platforms. The initiative not only called for accountability, but also aimed to support Keisha's surviving children through donations and awareness efforts. Community members organized a candlelight vigil in Mesquite, Texas, attended by neighbors, co-workers, and friends. The vigil became a gathering point for collective grief and a statement of solidarity. Citizens displayed posters with Keisha's name, while speakers called attention to the growing concern over domestic violence incidents within the region. As the manhunt intensified, investigators turned to digital and physical surveillance to narrow its movements. By reviewing footage from highway cameras, gas stations, and residential doorbell systems, detectives were able to reconstruct a partial route of Witt's flight. Data showed his vehicle moving through multiple parts of Dallas, suggesting that he was actively avoiding main roads and possibly seeking refuge in less monitored areas. Officers from multiple agencies, Mesquite PD, Dallas Police Department, and the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, coordinated information in real time. The focus was to prevent Witt from crossing state lines or gaining access to financial resources that could prolong his escape. On October 25, 2025, after nearly 2 weeks of active pursuit, law enforcement received a verified lead that Witt was hiding in South Dallas. Acting on this intelligence, the U.S. Marshals North Texas Fugitive Task Force conducted a tactical operation that resulted in Witt's arrest without incident. He was transported to the Dallas County Jail, where he was formally booked on a murder charge. No bond was set, reflecting the seriousness of the alleged crime. During a short press conference, a Mesquite police spokesperson stated, "This arrest brings some closure, but the investigation continues." The arrest marked a pivotal development in a case that had gripped the community for weeks, but investigators stressed that substantial forensic and testimonial work remained pending. One of the earliest and most significant pieces of evidence emerged from a conversation Witt had with his father. In a statement documented in the police affidavit, Witt reportedly said, "I think I killed her." This indirect confession, though not delivered directly to investigators, became a key component of the prosecution's case. It indicated an awareness of guilt and supported the timeline, suggesting that Witt fled immediately after shooting. A forensic interview conducted with the couple's 3-year-old child revealed chilling details. The child reportedly told investigators they heard a loud noise, believed to be the gunshot, after witnessing a verbal dispute between their parents. The statement was carefully corroborated through child specialist interview techniques to avoid contamination or coaching. This testimony provided critical context regarding what occurred inside the home shortly before Keisha's death. Court affidavits later disclosed that the fatal confrontation stemmed from an argument about how it treated their children differently. Sources close to the investigation indicated that Keisha had been upset about Witt's discipline methods and perceived favoritism. The disagreement reportedly escalated quickly, leading to the shooting. Both Witt's and Keisha's cell phones were seized as part of the evidence collection process. Investigators conducted digital extractions to uncover text messages, call logs, and location data in the hours before the murder. Analysts sought patterns of prior disputes or signs of coercive behavior that could establish a pattern of control or volatility in the relationship. Preliminary findings revealed multiple exchanges of heated messages, which prosecutors may later use to establish motive and premeditation. Forensic specialists conducted detailed scene mapping and ballistic analysis. Results confirmed that the bullet trajectory and residue patterns were consistent with a close-range gunshot, supporting the theory that the shooting occurred during an intimate confrontation rather than a random act. No signs of forced entry or defensive wounds were found, further suggesting that Keisha did not anticipate an attack. The autopsy results confirmed that she died hours before police performed a welfare check, establishing a clearer window of time for the incident. Despite significant progress, several areas of the investigation remain unresolved. Police have not publicly disclosed how the firearm was obtained or what became of it following the shooting. There was also no confirmed record of previous domestic violence complaints, though acquaintances of the victim reportedly mentioned past tensions. Authorities maintain a deliberate level of discretion regarding certain details, emphasizing the importance of protecting the integrity of the ongoing prosecution. Witt's arrest proceeded peacefully, with no resistance or altercation. Law enforcement credited public cooperation and anonymous tips for aiding in his capture. The Dallas County District Attorney's Office formally filed a murder charge under Texas Penal Code 19.02b. Witt remains held without bond, pending formal indictment and arraignment. A public defender has been assigned to represent Witt, while the District Attorney's Office continues compiling evidence through witness testimonies, forensic data, and investigative reports. Expected evidence includes Witt's verbal admission relayed through his father, the child's recorded statement, pending forensic reports connecting Witt's clothing to gunshot residue found at the scene, and a brief family statement. Relatives said, "We have justice starting, but this is not over." The case remains open in Dallas County, awaiting further court proceedings and forensic confirmations that could finalize the path toward trial. When news of Keisha Hilliard's death reached the public, it was not just another crime headline. It was a collapse of family and the ignition of a conversation about domestic violence, systemic neglect, and the long-term trauma that radiates from such cases. Behind the investigation and legal procedures lay the fragments of a household, 5 children, a grieving mother, and a community forced to confront a painful truth. 5 children were left behind in the aftermath of Keisha Hilliard's death. Their ages varied, but all were directly impacted by the sudden loss of their mother. Following the incident, the children were divided among relatives, a decision made in coordination with Child Protective Services and family representatives. Custody arrangements were finalized to ensure the children's safety and stability. Trauma counseling sessions were organized through local victim assistance programs in Dallas County. Licensed therapists began working with the 2 oldest children, who were reported to have been present during the confrontation that resulted in their mother's death. The sessions aimed to address symptoms of post-traumatic stress, including flashbacks, nightmares, and withdrawal behaviors. Family members described the children as quiet, withdrawn, and struggling to understand what happened. Professionals involved in the case noted that the long-term impact on these minors would depend on consistent therapeutic intervention and emotional support systems. A statement released by Keisha's mother, Donna Hilliard, summarized the family's position. "We're heartbroken, but we want justice and awareness. This should never happen again." Donna's statement became a reference point in media coverage, appearing in both local broadcasts and national features on domestic violence awareness. In the days that followed the tragedy, community members organized multiple initiatives to support the Hilliard family. A GoFundMe campaign was launched, managed by close family friends, to cover funeral expenses, counseling costs, and the daily needs of Keisha's children. Within 2 weeks, the fundraiser surpassed its initial goal, receiving contributions from residents across North Texas. Vigils were held near Avis Circle, where Keisha had lived. Neighbors placed candles and flowers in front of her residence, marking the site as a reminder of the loss. Artists from the local community later painted a mural in her memory, displaying her name alongside a call to speak before it's too late. Social media platforms amplified the awareness campaign. Hashtag dedicated to Keisha's case circulated widely, leading to online discussions about the signs of domestic abuse, the failure of early intervention, and the rising number of partner-involved homicides in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Advocacy organizations shared the case as a learning example during seminars and webinars focused on intimate partner violence prevention. The case sparked widespread outrage, primarily centered on the question of why domestic violence warnings were not identified or acted upon sooner. Multiple residents and advocacy leaders questioned the effectiveness of local intervention systems. Some claim that signs of controlling or threatening behavior may have been visible before the fatal incident, but were either ignored or dismissed as personal matters. Media coverage broadened the discussion, linking Keisha's case to a pattern of partner-involved homicides in North Texas. Analysts and crime reporters cited similar cases that reveal recurring failures, inadequate restraining order enforcement, lack of follow-up welfare checks, and insufficient victim support once police reports were filed. Public discourse soon shifted toward the need for domestic violence prevention programs. Advocates pushed for legislative funding to strengthen local crisis response teams. Workshops and town hall meetings were held to educate citizens on identifying early warning signs, such as isolation, verbal abuse, financial control, and unexplained injuries. Faith-based groups also played a significant role. Churches in the area organized community gatherings where victims and survivors shared personal accounts. These events provided safe spaces for discussion while raising funds for shelters and counseling centers. Local pastors and religious leaders issued joint statements offering continued spiritual and material support for the Hilliard family and other victims of abuse. Despite the investigation's progress, several key questions remain unresolved, preventing full closure. Exact motive. Investigators continue to assess what triggered the fatal confrontation. Witness statements suggest prior arguments, but the immediate cause remains unclear. Firearm origin. Authorities have yet to publicly confirm whether the weapon used was legally purchased or registered. The gun's trace and ownership records remain under review. History of control or threats. Records indicate previous disputes, but no formal restraining orders were filed. Interviews with friends suggest there may have been unreported incidents of intimidation or control. Systemic intervention. Law enforcement and social workers are now reviewing whether earlier welfare checks or domestic violence intervention programs could have prevented escalation. Child witnesses. 2 of the children were reportedly inside the residence at the time. Psychological evaluations continue to determine the extent of their trauma and the specialized care they require. Judicial process. The timeline for trial proceedings has yet to be finalized. Legal experts predict that pre-trial hearings, forensic evaluations, and witness testimonies will extend the process into the next year. Closure. The Hilliard family continues to question whether closure is possible without full disclosure of the facts surrounding Keisha's death. Keisha Hilliard's case exemplifies a pattern of silence surrounding domestic violence in America. Many similar tragedies occur behind closed doors, where victims remain unseen and unprotected until it is too late. The investigation into her death highlights not only the personal cost, but also the systemic blind spots that allow such violence to escalate unchecked. Children who witness domestic homicides often become hidden victims, carrying psychological scars into adulthood. Studies referenced by advocacy organizations indicate that child witnesses are 5 times more likely to experience emotional instability and distrust in future relationships. Keisha's children now represent that silent demographic, those who survive but continue to live with the residual impact of trauma. Public awareness has become a crucial outcome of this case. Advocates emphasize the importance of recognizing early signs of partner control and reporting concerns before situations become fatal. Educational campaigns are being integrated into schools, workplaces, and churches to normalize discussions about domestic safety. Law enforcement reform has also become a central topic. Proposed improvements include enhanced domestic violence reporting systems, immediate follow-up on repeated calls for assistance, risk assessment tools for households previously identified as volatile, mandatory coordination between law enforcement and social service agencies during welfare checks. The legacy of Keisha Hilliard's case extends beyond her neighborhood. Her name now appears in advocacy materials, public discussions, and legislative hearings aimed at improving protection mechanisms for domestic abuse victims. Today, the home on Avis Circle remains quiet. The laughter once shared within its walls has been replaced by silence and unanswered questions. Keisha's story stands as both evidence and warning. Evidence of love interrupted by violence, and warning of a system that failed to intervene in time. Justice may eventually be served in court, but the true pursuit lies beyond conviction. It lies in ensuring that no other family experiences what hers did, and that the darkness uncovered in this case leads not just to accountability, but to change. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.